of all the fortresses of the Bronze Age world. The citadels of the Cycladic Islands. The mighty hilltop lairs of the Argolid lords. The dusty tells of Asia Minor. And the forgotten fortresses of the Peloponnese. One alone towers above the rest, dwarfing the likes of Tiryns, Medea, and even Mycenae itself. It is the most mysterious, the least visited, and by far the largest of all. Nestled amidst farmland in the flat open plains between Thebes and Orchomenos, this is the citadel of Gla. At 10 times the size of any other Mycenaean settlement, its immense circuit of Cyclopean walls enclose an area of more than 20 hectares. The walls here are so great, in fact, at around 3 meters thick, built directly over the cliff in many places, that unlike most edifices from the ancient past, they have never been lost. Standing exactly where they are, above ground for over 3,000 years. Gla has always been visible, requiring very little maintenance or reconstruction in modern times. And yet, even though it survives so completely, it is a forgotten place. No definitive literary mentions exist from antiquity. And if you visit today, you'll likely have the entire place to yourself. It isn't even clear definitively who built it or why. As is often the case with Bronze Age Greece, this being an archaeological site with no story. Though, by purely looking at the land and the architecture itself, a basic picture can be hypothesized nonetheless. For the story gets even weirder. The fortified Acropolis at Gla, originally an island in a great expanse of salt marsh, overlooks one of the most sophisticated agricultural projects of its time. To the east of the rocky outcrop that would be chosen for the fortress, a vast lake stretched in ancient days. Bordered by boggy marshland, a haven for waterborne diseases like malaria. It seems many early attempts to drain the area had been undertaken. But at some point in the late 2nd millennium BC, the greatest of all would be carried out. The decision being made to drain the swamp entirely. In the ensuing project, which can still be seen today, in order to control the flow of water from the 2 surrounding rivers during flooding, an estimated 400 million cubic meters of stone and 200 million cubic meters of earth would be moved. A mighty stone-lined canal some 25 kilometers long would be dug at the very center of the system too. as well as a number of subsidiary canals and the ingenious incorporation of natural subterranean holes. Though we know nothing of who instigated the work, or whether they lived to see its completion. As a direct result of the project, the entire area was transformed into an immensely fertile plain. A breadbasket for central Greece and beyond. Source of great wealth and prosperity for the inhabitants of Boeotia. Speculations remain rife about whether such a gigantic undertaking could have been accomplished by one city alone, with certain scholars suggesting it could have been a joint effort between Orchomenos and Thebes, perhaps in fact being allies in upholding their elite way of life. Our opinions on the two being clouded by later mythology. One strong argument is that according to the archaeology, Gla seems to have been built at the same time as the major Mycenaean drainage efforts in around 1300 BC. Possibly the two being part of the same construction effort. The Great Canals being located just a kilometre north of the stronghold, which itself stands just 20 kilometres east of Orchomenos. If this is the case, it seems highly likely to have been masterminded by one of the cities alone. Given the geography, most scholars tend to assume Orchomenos. Like innumerable locations across Greece, the local people have long known the place as Paleokastro, meaning Old Castle. The ancient name for Gla remains entirely unknown. The one we know today stems from the Ottoman era of just a few centuries ago, a Turkish word for tower. Though modern scholars have variously connected the place to Arni from the works of Homer, one of many Homeric sites never having been conclusively located. Although in reality, not even ancient writers were sure of Arni's location. Some even suggesting it having been swallowed by the lake. When excavations at Gla began, the picture only got stranger. Though the fortress had 4 large gateways, unusual in itself for a Mycenaean site, there are very few permanent buildings within the huge expanse enclosed within the walls. Particularly when compared to other far smaller settlements which tend to be completely filled with structures. The largest building of all, a central L-shaped complex located at the highest part of the limestone outcrop, was initially labelled by scholars as a palace. In particular, revealing several wonderfully preserved frescoes. Most famous of all being the dolphins of Gla, strangely reminiscent of Minoan styles from far-off Crete. Though it is important to remember that the sea is never far away. And yet, the so-called palace at Gla lacks most of the key features of a Mycenaean administrative centre, such as a throne room, pillared courtyard, and central hearth. Either these lie underground, still unexcavated, somewhere else on the site, or more likely, it never had such features to begin with. To the south of the central complex, two other large building groups have been investigated. Their functions remaining equally puzzling. Separated by a wall, with a long corridor connecting them with the structures to their north, the outlines and foundations of many other more temporary structures have been located all over the citadel. Though for the most part, it seems to have remained bare, rocky ground, perhaps even similar to the way it appears today. It remains possible that Gla could have been utilised as a military stronghold in order to protect the area, allowing for the gathering of a large army, including chariots and grazing grounds for horses. Perhaps acting as another heavily fortified palace centre in western Boeotia in order to further secure the region. Much like the lords of Mycenae seem to have held Tiryns right next to their main stronghold in the Argolid. Another theory, however, which could work alongside the military suggestion, is backed by archaeology. The discovery of large amounts of carbonised grain, suggesting extensive storage complexes to have once existed on the hilltop, promoting the suggestion of Gla as a storage centre and stockpile for food, as well as protection for farmers on the frontier in the event of an enemy attack, perhaps from Thebes, which may have been common. And yet, all we know definitively of Gla is that in terms of its sheer size and scale, its fortifications remain unmatched, even by Mycenae itself. Whether its very few buildings were palatial structures, storage units, or military barracks, for now, Gla keeps its secrets. Though it remains one of the most fascinating of all Mycenaean sites.